All right, good morning and greetings from South Georgia, USA. Greetings to the entire world. We are out here on this beautiful 31st day of January 2025. And we are in the greenhouse. There is a logging operation going on out in the woods. We have finally found some loggers that are willing to get the trees up that got knocked down in the storm. And they are busily out there with gigantic cut down machines and modern logging equipment getting the wood. Now, the truth of the matter is that because there's so much wood blown down here in South Georgia and all over the Southeast, that the big paper mills are essentially paying almost, I'd say, 1/3 to 1/4 the amount that they used to pay for the wood. But we really have no choice. It's, the woods is knocked down. You can't even walk around out there. And so all things work together for good for those who love God and are called according to His purposes. So that is the way we are looking at it. All right, now they're out there busily laboring. And I am going to, as I said many times before, there's only one thing that Jesus taught. But He taught it in many different ways. And that one thing is that we cannot do anything to save ourselves from this flesh and blood world and enter the kingdom of heaven. We may not do anything physically. It doesn't matter how good we are. It doesn't matter how many. I have a saying. It doesn't matter how many old ladies you help across the street, or how many meals that you serve to the elderly. That has nothing to do with it. Now, those are good things. There's nothing wrong with doing that thing if it strikes you as a member of your community. But that will not give you 1 inch closer to heaven. The only way to enter the kingdom of heaven is through the shed blood and the salvation and the mercy of Jesus, Yeshua the Messiah, Yeshua HaMashiach. And that's the only lesson of the New Testament. That's what it teaches. But there are many ways to go about it. And Jesus taught many different parables, many stories, and His aim was to go at it over and over and over again and possibly reach through the thick skull that we have, which is the skull of the flesh and blood man, which does not readily see God. All right, so we're going to start with John 6:27 through 29. Now, Jesus is talking to some of the Jews, and He's talking to them and telling them what they need to know. And He says, "Labor not for the meat which perisheth, or the food which spoils, but for that food or meat which endureth unto everlasting life, which the Son of Man," which is Jesus, "shall give unto you. For Him hath God the Father sealed," or given His seal of approval, or anointed Him. And then said they unto Him, "What shall we do that we might work the works of God?" Now, the prevailing attitude of the time, and honestly of our time, is that they said unto Him, "What shall we do that we might work the works of God?" And they thought that meant to keep the Ten Commandments. And we now think the same thing. I'd say a large percentage even of the Christians think that it is our works. They say, what shall we do that we might work the works of God? What should we do? And Jesus answered them and said unto them, This is the work of God, that ye believe on him whom he hath sent. So Jesus tells them very quickly that it's not anything that they can work physically. It's a belief that is the work. So a belief, you could call it a work, but it's not a physical work. It's a belief. And this, I'll go to John 6:40. And John says, quoting Jesus, And this is the will of him that sent me, that everyone which seeth the Son and believeth on him may have everlasting life, and I will raise him up at the last day from the grave. All right? So Jesus has said it 2 different times. He said, don't work for the meat or the food which perishes, but for the food which endures unto everlasting life, which the Son of Man, which is him, will give you. And they said, well, what shall we do? What are you asking us to do that we might work the works of God? And he says, the work of God is that you believe essentially in me, who God has sent to save you. Not keep the 10 Commandments. All right, so this is the trick of the devil. And it's been that way since the very beginning. The 10 Commandments were written by the hand of God through Moses. And you know them. Honor your parents, love God with all your heart and all your mind, don't commit adultery, don't steal, and just don't defraud. The problem is this. The commandments have to be, the 10 Commandments would have to have been kept perfectly in order for you to be saved by that. And there's only one person that ever kept the 10 Commandments perfectly, and that's Jesus. And that's because Jesus was not an ordinary man. He was a man, but he was also God. But it is widely believed by church-going people that we must keep the commandments. And this is not possible. Now I want to read you where it said, where the confusion comes in. And that is John 14:15. All right, we're going to pause right now, just a minute. Okay, this is where the confusion comes in. And this is a trick of the devil, because the devil wants you to think not only that you have to keep the 10 Commandments, but he also wants you to think that you can. Both of those things are lies. You do not have to keep the 10 Commandments because you can't keep the 10 Commandments. It is not possible for a human being to do that. The 10 Commandments were essentially given to show you your sin, to convince you that you were not God. It essentially is what it is. You are not God, and only God is good. So here we have a John 14:15 that says, "If you love me, keep my commandments." Commandments, plural. Now it says that in the King James, and all of them it says commandments, plural. Now, this is a trick of the devil. To start, all right, let's just go to what was the word that was translated commandments in the New Testament. It was translated from the Greek, and it was translated into the word commandments, plural. And 99% of the people, or 90%, think that means the 10 Commandments because it's plural. So it must be the 10 Commandments. If you love me, keep my commandments. So the majority of people think that Jesus is telling us if we love him, we have to keep the 10 Commandments. Or another way of saying that is that if you don't keep the 10 Commandments, you don't love Jesus. I've already pointed out to you that we cannot keep the 10 Commandments. It is impossible. We cannot do that because to keep the 10 Commandments is to be good all the time. We can't do it. All right, now let's go back to what the original word was in the New Testament. New Testament is a Greek. Entole. Entellomai, and I think it is pronounced something like entole. So if you look that up in the Strong's Concordance and read what does the word entole mean? And this is what Strong's Concordance says. It means commandment, singular, or it means an order, singular, or it means instruction, singular. A commandment, I command you to do this, as if it was a military commander. Or I like the word order and I like the word instruction. So when the translators of the Bible were translating it from the original language, they chose to use the word commandments, plural. And it is understandable that most people would think, oh, he means the 10 Commandments. That is not what it says. It says entole, orders, instructions, you could say words. So let me translate it how I think it should be. If you love me, keep my orders. And what orders is he talking about? If you love me, keep my words. Another way you could say, if you love me, keep my sayings. Or if you love me, keep my instructions. It is not speaking of the 10 Commandments. This is not possible because we can't do that. And it doesn't say that. But translators who were influenced by this way or that way, they choose the word commandments, giving us the idea that they're talking about the 10 Commandments. It's not possible to keep them, so Jesus couldn't have meant that. If you love me, keep my orders, keep my words, keep my sayings. Now, I'm going to go now to John 13:34. Where Jesus told those that believed in him that he's going to give them a new commandment, singular, or you might say a new order. And he says, this I give unto you, this is the new order, that you love one another as I have loved you, and that you also love one another. So Jesus' new commandment, singular, is that we love one another. He doesn't say that we do that to be saved. He's saving us based on what? That we believe that he was sent by God. What shall we do that we might work the works of God? And Jesus answered and said unto them, this is the work of God, that ye believe on him whom he hath sent. And in John 6:4 it says, and this is the will of him that sent me, that everyone which seeth the Son and believes on him may have everlasting life, and I will raise him up at the last day. It's based on your belief, not on it. Not only it is also not based on whether you keep the new commandment, that ye love one another. Jesus gave us this new commandment, but he didn't say, he says, a new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another as I have loved you, and that ye also love one another. Okay. But that doesn't mean, Jesus didn't say I give you a new commandment to be saved. He just said I give you a new order, or a new saying, or a new way to look at it. Now Jesus says that we love one another even as I have loved you. Well, that's also impossible. We can't love one another as Jesus loved us, because we're not God. We're not divine. So Jesus was giving us that new commandment for another reason. And I think, yeah, we're supposed to try to do that, sure. We're supposed to try to keep the 10 Commandments also. I mean, yeah, go for it. Go for it. Try to keep the 10 Commandments. If you're honest with yourself, you won't go one day doing that. Because one of the commandments is that we love God with all our heart and all our soul and all our mind and we love our neighbor as ourselves. No, we don't do that, and we might aspire to do that. But it'd be a great thing to try to do, but you're not going to do it, because we can't do that. We are not able to keep the commandments. Now, are we able to keep the new commandment that Jesus gave us, that we're to love one another even as he has loved us? No, I don't think so. But we may aspire to do that. But once again, neither the 10 Commandments nor the new commandment that Jesus gave us is not what saves us. What saves us is, I'll read it again, that ye believe on him whom he hath sent. That you believe on Jesus. You believe that he was sent by God. You believe that believing in him will save you, and that you believe in him. It doesn't even say that you believe in him and try to keep the 10 Commandments. It doesn't say anything. Now, yes, you're going to try to, because if you believe in Jesus, if you understand his mission, you understand that we are not good, and that we're sorry that we're not good. We want to be like Jesus. We want to love one another even as he has loved us. And we want to try to do that. We want to try hard to do that, but we can't do it because we're not good. Now, there is one school of thought that says that since if we believe in Jesus, we're saved, therefore we can do anything else we want as far as sin. Now, there is a school of thought or a teaching, a certain Christian denomination that teaches that. Since we're saved and we can't lose our salvation, we can do anything we want to do. I wouldn't be pushing Jesus that far. But it is true, I think, that if you're saved, you're saved. But see, the thing is, if you're saved, you belong to Jesus then. And Jesus then is our Father, our Master. We are His children. Now, let me ask you this. If we belong to Jesus and we start going out and sinning with impunity, what is a good father going to do? Well, he's going to chastise his child. He's going to chastise them. A good father would tell their child, let's say that the child was, I don't know, just doing something that was wrong, stealing. The father might teach the child why stealing is wrong. Maybe go through the why would you, son, you wouldn't like somebody to steal your bicycle, would you? That's why you shouldn't steal something from somebody else. It's not logical. Do unto others. You could teach your child the biblical truth about stealing. Now, if your child did it again, that might be when you might get the belt out. It looks like he's not going to do what you said, but let's just say he stole something from your house, from his mother. Let's say he got in his mother's purse and stole some money after he had been taught. Well, I think it'd be time to put the belt on him. Don't tell defects, because they don't want you to discipline your children. But your good father would punish you. And then the very least that would happen is that you're going to be real careful about stealing again. You might do it again, but then it would be, if he did it again, you'd have to put a whipping on him and probably restrict him and do all kind of things. You're going to discipline your child. You're not going to say, son, I love you, so just do anything you want. No, you're going to discipline your child. And Jesus said that He disciplines His children. He does not discipline the devil's children. So if a child of God, if a believer in Jesus continues to do things that he knows are wrong, then Jesus is going to discipline him. And I believe, it is my belief, that Jesus will discipline you harder and harder with the belt. And He may even actually discipline you to death, or let you die from what you have done. If you're doing drugs, for example, He's going to try His very best to get you to let you be disciplined. Discipline you by teaching you and letting you find out what happens when you do drugs. But there's a whole bunch of them that end up dying from that. Now, are they saved? I suspect they are. Many of them are saved. I've known a number of drug addicts that hated what they were doing, and they did believe in Jesus, but they just could not quit. And whether or not they were saved, that's between them and Jesus, but I think they probably were. Does the devil discipline his children? Well, he doesn't have to, because the devil, when you do bad things, you get punished for it. If you do drugs, you're going to get punished for it. If you cheat on your wife, you're going to get punished for it. You're going to either the wife will leave you and divorce you. She might be cold towards you and not love you anymore. She might turn your children against you. You might end up getting shot by the husband whose wife you're cheating with. There's all kind of punishments for that. You're going to get punished. And if you belong to Jesus, you're also going to get punished, but you're going to get punished by a righteous Father that knows how to punish. And Jesus is only going to punish you as much as he has to. He's not going to overdo it. Like an unrighteous parent, sometimes they beat a child to death. You know, we can't keep the commandments. So when Jesus says, if you love me, keep my commands, not my commandments. And what is his command? His command is that you believe on him. That's what we have to keep. And here it is again. Then they said to him, what shall we do that we might work the works of God? And Jesus answered and said unto them, this is the work of God, that ye believe on him whom he hath sent. When you do that, you will be born again, and Jesus will put the Holy Spirit in your born again man's heart, and you will then have a pure heart, but it's separate than the flesh and blood man. That flesh and blood man is not ever good. He never becomes good. He dies and goes to the grave. The spirit man is good. And in a perfect world, in the world that Jesus meant for it, the spirit man will begin to tame the old flesh and blood man. And they will become, the flesh and blood man will begin to act in a proper way, a better way. But he will never be good. He is being tamed, much like a horse trainer puts a bit in the mouth of the horse. He trains the horse. He puts a bit in his mouth, and that horse begins to go under control. Okay? But if you take that bit out of the mouth of a horse and put him out on the pasture for 2 or 3 months, He's going to be hard to catch. Again, you've let him go wild again. You've let him sow wild oats. But your flesh and blood, your spirit man overrules the passions of your flesh and blood man as you become stronger and stronger as a born again man, as you mature. That's the gospel right there. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. And if God gives me another day, I will predict that I will teach the exact same lesson in a little bit different way the next time that I get a chance. Now we'd like to say the Lord's Prayer, and in the Lord's Prayer I will point out that we say, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Now, why do we ask God to forgive us our trespasses every day? If we're keeping the 10 Commandments, we don't have to ask him to forgive us. We're keeping the 10 Commandments. We've done it, but we don't keep it. So every single day we're admitting to God, no matter how hard I try, God, no matter how much I love you and believe in you, that old man keeps chomping at that bit and keeps trying to spit it out. I don't know if you've ever ridden horses, but a lot of times the horse will try to spit the bit out to get it out where you can't control him as good. The old man tries to spit the bit out. And there's another saying that you fight against the goads, and the goads are the sticks that they prod the oxen along with, and the old man fights against that, and the old man tries to spit the bit out. So every day we ask God to save us, we ask God to forgive us, but it's qualified with, but we also have to forgive others. We're not the judge. That's why we have to forgive others. All right, the Lord's Prayer, and we'd love it if you'd say it with us. I'm going to stand over here. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.